right, welcome to Studies in Proverbs. And we're going to begin this first video with just a little bit of background about the book of Proverbs. It is one of the 5 wisdom books in the Bible, along with Psalms, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, and Job. Proverbs forms the basis of wise living with the underlying principle of you reap what you sow. Ecclesiastes and Job fill out the wisdom proper literature by illustrating exceptions to that rule. The book of Proverbs is attributed to Solomon and contains 2 major sections. The first section is kind of a foundation for a wise life, and that's found in chapters 1 to 9, and chapters 10 to 31 contain the actual Proverbs. And Proverbs are short sayings, generally in parallel, that contrast wisdom and folly, often using imagery from daily life. So if we look at the first section in Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 to 7, we see the introduction to and for the whole book of Proverbs. As I mentioned already, Solomon is mentioned here as the author, and of course he was king of Israel who was known for his great wisdom. You can see that in 1 Kings 4:29 to 34. He asked for wisdom from God and received it. The asking for wisdom was in fact an act of wisdom, so God rewarded him for that. In verses 2 to 6, we're kind of given the overall purpose of the book, which is for the development of moral skill, wisdom, and prudence. Or another way of saying prudence is the application of wisdom to our daily lives. Verse 7 gives us the general theme and foundation for the book of Proverbs, which is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. We see here an example of a proverb in this sentence where the fear of the Lord gives knowledge, but in contrast to that, fools despise both wisdom and discipline. So when we get to this next section in chapter 1, verses 8 and 9, we have the first of a number of Father's exhortations. And these verses introduce the first major section of Proverbs that's framed around that, a father teaching his son, emphasizing the value of instruction received from both the mother and father, and the beauty of a life well lived. That as we seek wisdom, it is something that adorns our head, and like a necklace worn around our chests, or garland around our head. It is beautiful. In verses 10 to 19, we have a warning against being enticed, and that is not to follow in the path of those who want to find dishonest gain. And in these particular verses, they're talking about murderers and thieves who would come across some unsuspecting victim, and they would rob them and then also share the plunder among each other. And we are told that this is like setting a trap for birds right in front of them. They see what's going on, so they're not going to fall into that trap, and that really the person and the people that they're trapping are only themselves, because in acting wickedly, they are destroying their character and setting their lives on the course towards death. In the next section, verses 20 to 33, wisdom calls. And this is the first of a number of times when wisdom is personified as a woman. She is seen as going out through the streets and the highways and the byways, wherever there might be someone to listen, And she is warning the simple, the mockers and the fools, calling them to repentance, calling them to heed her instruction. Uh, but when that instruction is not followed, wisdom promises to laugh when disaster strikes. And we see here the principle of reaping what you sow. If you will not act wisely, there will be consequences. And those consequences will be disastrous. And here, wisdom is kind of seen as a bit of a harsh teacher. And she merely says that she will laugh when the disaster strikes. And what we see in verses 28 to 33 is that failing to follow wisdom's call leads to death. That this is what a life of folly leads to. But in contrast, the wise will flourish. And so this is just the first chapter in Proverbs and gives us a good initial insight into the overall message of Proverbs.